We covered the general lore of Dark Souls 3 in our previous video, so this time, let's narrow in on our targets, the Lords of Cinder. A Lord of Cinder is someone who has previously linked the First Flame. Lord Gwyn was the first, then we did the same in Dark Souls 1. In Dark Souls 3, it's fallen to us again, but with all these lords in the mix, things are slightly different. The Lords of Cinder reawaken along with us at the start of our journey and must be killed and returned to Firelink Shrine so we can link the fire and fulfill our destiny as the Unkindled One. But who are the Lords of Cinder? Yorm the Giant is most likely the oldest Lord of Cinder in Dark Souls 3. According to the item description of his soul, Yorm is related to the Giant Lord from Dark Souls 2 who waged war with King Vendrick. This is probably whom Yorm's soul refers to when it mentions an ancient conqueror. While Yorm used to be a fierce warrior who led armies into battle and used his great shield and great machete to crush foes, his followers eventually came to distrust him. Yorm most likely became a Lord of Cinder to earn back his people's trust, but things didn't work out in his favor. According to the profaned flame pyromancy, once Yorm linked the First Flame, an intense fire washed through the profaned capital, destroying all humans in its path. Perhaps because Yorm is a giant, the First Flame reacted differently to his soul, resulting in this tragic destruction. We learn more about Yorm through Sigurd's questline. Sigurd, a Katarina knight you meet on your journey, tells you he's in Lothric to keep a promise to an old friend. When Sigurd joins you in the Yorm fight, he has his own Storm Ruler to help bring him down. After Yorm is defeated, Sigurd thanks you for helping him keep his promise.
My thanks.
This seems to indicate that Yorm knew he would someday return and tasked his close friend Sigurd with the duty of killing him before he could cause too much harm. Aldrich, Devourer of Gods, was most likely the next in line to link the fire and also one of the strangest characters in the game. You face him in Anor Londo, in the same chamber you once fought Ornstein and Smough in the first Dark Souls. Aldrich was a normal man at one point, but he had a taste for cannibalism. It's suggested that he was also the leader of the Cathedral of the Deep. Several items say that Aldrich was once at the cathedral, but then left for the Boreal Valley, and now the Archdeacon Royce watches over his coffin. That last bit raises an interesting question. If Aldrich has a coffin, how could he have left for the Boreal Valley? Likely this coffin was used to house what was left of him after he became a Lord of Cinder. However, as we know, the bell in Firelink Shrine has awakened him. What else do we know about him? His cinders let us know a little, but taking a look at his soul gives us even more. At some point, Aldrich had a dream that showed him a disturbing future. To combat this, he decided to consume not just people, but gods. With this in mind, it certainly makes sense why he would go to the Boreal Valley, as that's where Anor Londo is located, the last known home of the gods. What's worse, the soul of Pontiff Sulyvahn tells us Aldrich wasn't working alone. So who did the Pontiff trap? None other than Gwyndolin, the son of Lord Gwyn. During the fight with Aldrich, we can see Gwendolin's body being consumed by the gelatinous blob that is Aldrich. After the fight, you can purchase the Darkmoon Longbow, which further solidifies this hypothesis. This is the state we find Aldrich in. He's been in Anor Londo consuming a god and may very well have consumed others before. However, Gwyndolin seems to be the most recent, or at least the most powerful, as he is still visible in the blob that makes up the rest of Aldrich. Anri of Astora and Horus the Hushed have an entire questline revolving around Aldrich. If you complete their quest, Anri summons you to her world where you kill Aldrich. Horus and Anri were likely sacrifices given to Aldrich to be eaten. They somehow escaped and, working together, planned to kill the creature that had once held them captive. The story of the Abyss Watchers is linked to the story of Artorias, one of the 4 great knights of Lord Gwyn from the first Dark Souls, who died fighting the Abyss. Dark Souls 3 introduces us to the Abyss Watchers, a group of warriors who found Artorias' body and consumed his blood, forming the Undead Legion. This legion tasked themselves with upholding Artorias' sworn duty to fight the Abyss and drive back its monstrous creations, no matter the cost. The Undead Legion operates out of Farron, a swampy area that bears a striking resemblance to the Darkroot Forest from the first Dark Souls. Darkroot was not only the home of Sif, but also the same forest that once housed Ulasil, the death place of Artorias. It makes sense that the Undead Legion would find the remains of Artorias in Farron and continue to fight back the Abyss in an area where it once took hold. This explains the link between Artorias and the Undead Legion, but how did the Abyss Watchers become Lords of Cinder? So connected were they to each other and to Artorias that their souls merged to form one giant soul. What better person to link the fire than an ancient Knight of Gwyn who has lived on through a shared connection with dozens of other knights? So what happened to them? If they were once sworn to protect people and fight the Abyss, why did they stop? When we first meet them, they are even battling each other. The Wolf Knight armor tells us what we need. The armor of the Abyss Watchers suggests their own eventual end. What's one of the first things we see upon equipping the Undead Legion armor? The Abyss. The bottom half of the cape is covered in it, and their helmet has lines of it all over. Just like Arturius before them, they lost the battle to the darkness. Each knight now views his former ally as being tainted, and they will stop at nothing to destroy the Abyss, even if that means killing each other. Ludleth of Courland is very different from the other Lords of Cinder. He's tiny, frail, and actually helps us through our journey. Since he's clearly human but hasn't hollowed yet, we can assume he either hasn't been dead for long, or becoming a Lord of Cinder has prevented him from losing his sanity. Ultimately, we only learn a few things about Ludleth. For one, he's an expert at manipulating souls. It seems to be something he learned from Courland, as we learned from examining the Transposing Kiln. The name Courland has never come up before in a Dark Souls game, but it seems a prime place for soul manipulation despite also being considered a forbidden art, as Ludleth tells us. This may explain why Ludleth's throne refers to him as an exile. If you speak with Ludleth after finding the eyes of a Firekeeper, he'll explain how he tried to protect the Firekeeper whom the eyes belong to. He knows the eyes reveal the end of an age, which is why he chose to link the flame and become a Lord of Cinder. Remember, these are just theories and speculation. If you have theories about the Lords of Cinder, share them with us. We'll be back with more lore from Dark Souls 3 next time on non-boss characters. Don't forget to check out our strategy and story features, and for all things Dark Souls, you're already in the right place, IGN.